सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः.
Janki ji, 2 minutes. The screen is frozen. Just yes.
Okay, so let us chant together then. There seems to be some technological issue. Verses 26 to 35. Anye tvevamajānantah śrutvānyebhyah upāsate tepi chātitarantyeva mrityum śrutiparāyaṇāः yavat sanjāyate kinchit sattvam sthavarajangam क्षेत्र क्षेत्रज्ञ संयोगात् तद्विद्धि भरतर्षभ समं सर्वेषु भूतेषु तिष्ठन्तं परमेश्वरं विनश्यत्स्व विनश्यन्तं यः पश्यति स पश्यति समं पश्यन् हि सर्वत्र समवस्थितमीश्वरं न हि नस्त्यात्मनात्मानं ततो याति परां गतिम् प्रकृत्यैव च कर्माणि क्रियमाणानि सर्वशः यः पश्यति तथात्मानम् अकर्तारं स पश्यति यदा भूतपृथक् भावम् एकस्थामनुपश्यति तत एव स विस्तारं ब्रह्म सम्पद्यते तदा अनादित्वान् निर्गुणत्वात् परमात्मायमप्ययः शरीरस्थोऽपि कौन्तेय न करोति न लिप्यते यथा सर्वगतं सौक्ष्म्यात् आकाशं नोपलिप्यते सर्वत्रावस्थितो देहे तथात्मानोपलिप्यते यथा प्रकाश्यत्येकं Krutsam lokamimam ravi. Kshetram kshetri tatha krutsnam prakashayati bharata. Kshetra kshetrajnayorevam antaram jnana chakshusha bhuta prakriti moksham cha ye viduryanti te param. So in the 25, what was the Brad saying? Is there a particular reason we chant exactly 10 verses? Okay, we have gotten used to asking for everything. Yes, there is a particular reason. 5 won't do the job and 15 will be too much for everybody. So we just need some. What are we doing? Why are we chanting verses in the first place? We are all very intellectual and we do analysis. So why do we chant at all? Why even chant one verse? Why even chant the invocation? The thing is that when you come to Vedanta class, you have to engage your intellect, your gross intellect, your subtle intellect. But what has happened before the class, because we're not doing this class at 4 o'clock in the morning, we're doing it at any odd hour. What has happened is the world has been battering you with all sorts of sense perceptions, all sorts of issues, all sorts of problems. As I see Jayashree sitting here very peacefully in front of me, I know where she has come from. One broker has told her all the issues about the land. Then our marketing team, which is pretty disastrous. Not our marketing team. Our marketing team is very good, but we hired external marketing team, and that was a disaster. So she's handling that. Now, all of these things she has dealt with. Probably her son didn't do his homework. The maid may or may not have come. There's all sorts of battering from the world going on. Now you've come to Vedanta class. You have to switch off that whole world. Whole world is gone and concentrate only on self-development, self-realization. How will you make this transition like that? It's not a switch, right? Your mind is not a switch that's on and off, and I don't want to think where it will go. It doesn't work like that. So, what the great sages in the past have done is that they have broken that chain of thought and those emotions and thoughts that were going on by placing an invocation there, by placing chanting there. So, over a period of time, your mind gets attuned to the fact that when I hear this, this comes on. So that transition period is what we give because of the chanting, either a verse or multiple verses. And the mind becomes available to take in this knowledge. Otherwise, just imagine you jogged and you came and you ran and you sat down and the first 10 minutes are gone anyway. Now why 10 verses? Because if you do 5 verses, maybe you won't tune in. If you go over 10 verses, then maybe you'll just get bored with the chanting and again your mind will go off somewhere. Because this is a Vedanta class after all. So too much emotion thing will not work for people. But little is there because we all have emotion, but too much of it, then we will start switching off. Right? So that's why this, in fact, it's such a beautiful whole study course has been designed by the self-realized sages of the past and has been done like this in India for over 10,000 years. Every time you chant Om Sahana Bhavatu, you have to remember this is the verse of the Vedas. This is the invocation of the Vedas. That means, can you imagine from when this has come down? Like hair stand on end, right? We are part of a parampara that has been in this land. I can't even say country, in this land. like 10,000 years or more. God only knows how long it's gone on. So every bit of it has been well thought of, well planned, and everything. Okay.
Thank you.
So last time we finished the 30th verse, which was the last verse of the way to realize the self. And what was it saying? He who sees all action as performed by Prakriti alone and the self as actionless, he sees. Now, he who sees it, sees it. If you see it, you become objective in life. You become pure in life. You become successful in life because only objective people become successful. You have to keep on thinking about what are you trying to do? What are you trying to do? This question must constantly be in our head. What am I trying to do? Naim is working very hard on starting courses, online courses. So he has to always ask himself, okay, by doing this, what are we trying to do? Mahesh is getting that website ready. I don't know where it is, but that's his job now. So he's getting the website ready. But whatever we do, anything we do, we have to constantly ask ourselves, why am I doing this? What am I trying to achieve? What is supposed to come out of this? When we think like that, our work converts from being mechanical to being sensible. I don't know if you remember chapter 12, he said that. You remember chapter 12 where he said that? All gone, huh? Padma Patra Ivam Basa. It's gone, it's gone. वो दिन गया, वो रात गई, बात गई. Remember? Do you remember? Anyone remembers? No, long-term students also remember. Look, you stand a better chance if you're a new student because you have less stuff to remember. So tell.
Can you repeat? Can you repeat? I couldn't hear. Voice was not clear.
Okay. When you learn to see this, okay, what he's talking about, everything is done by Prakriti. It says, Yap pashyati sa pashyati. He who sees it, sees it. Now, you can't convince anybody of this. Either he sees it or he doesn't see it. But if he does see it, he becomes objective. He becomes pure. He becomes successful. And why does he become successful? Because there's always that in his mind. What is it that I'm trying to achieve? Whether you're successful or not is just a simple matter of, did you attain the end? Simple, right? What is success? What is the definition of success? That did you attain the end? Whatever you were trying to do, did you attain it? If you did, you were successful. If your goal was to rob a bank and you robbed the bank and you stayed out of jail, assumably, then you were successful. If your goal was to realize the self and you realized the self, then you were successful. So success or failure is to do with what is your goal and do you reach it? Now, to do that, you have to constantly ask yourself, what am I doing this for? Why am I doing this? What is my purpose in doing this? It could be the whole overall purpose or even the immediate purpose. What is supposed to be attained? Jayashree has taken up the job of putting a fence around the plot. So is the fence put or not will determine whether the project was successful or not. So you have to be clear, what is it you're trying to do? When you're clear about what you're trying to do, it saves you from mechanical action. When you perform mechanical action, you cannot become successful because you're doing actions which you think you should do, some background thing you have that ye karna chahiye, ye nahi karna chahiye. You're not matching everything to the goal you're trying to achieve. Ye acha hoga karne ke liye. Lots of people say, acha hai na? Typical example is about social media. Everybody tells us, Oh, you must be on social media. That's, everybody starts like that. All marketing attempts, they start. You must be on social media. Social media is very powerful nowadays. We have been on social media, thanks to our good friend Mahesh, for at least 7 years. तो क्या गुल खिलाए हैं? Did any video go viral? Did anybody say, oh my God, you're doing this wonderful thing. Here is 108 crores to build the university? Or forget it. 10 rupees, please take a donation. Nothing has happened, right, in 7 years. So what is going to happen now? And how do you think it's going to happen? So people get very mechanical. They say, social media pe dal do." Mechanical activity. I like to do it. I want to do it. I've heard people say that it's very good. Okay, produce results, please. Right? So it saves you. If you are clear what you're trying to achieve, it saves you from becoming mechanical in life. Concept is clear so far. Give me a thumbs up. Concept clear. Oops, not many thumbs up are coming. What is happening? Why was the concept not clear? Acha, then you tell me what is not clear in the concept. Unless you're all asleep.
I couldn't relate it to the all movement is in Prakriti to understanding this prevents mechanical action. I couldn't.
Okay. We are not talking about, that's not being explained. The part which is being explained is ya pashyati sa pashyati. He who sees it, sees it. So when you see it, you miss the line. When you see it, you become objective, you become pure, you become successful. And so success is now being spoken of more.
So you become successful when you prevent mechanical action because you see this that all action is in Prakriti.
No, you remember your goal. Ya pashyati sa pashyati. Who sees it, sees it. Person who's got a vision in life, he becomes successful. I mean, he becomes objective. That's what makes him successful. He's objective, he's pure. He gets these two qualities. Since he's got these two qualities, he becomes successful. Now, how are these two qualities making you successful? Because it prevents mechanical action. What is mechanical action? Action that is done without a clear goal in mind. It is done for every other reason. This is a good thing to do. This my grandfather has been doing. For all sorts of reasons other than what is my goal and how is this connected to my goal.
So the person without a goal, he doesn't see the.
He has no vision in life. There's no vision, there's no overarching vision to whatever he's doing. He's doing things because I like it. My grandfather did it. My neighbors are doing it. It's a good thing to do. कोई reason ही नहीं है यहाँ.
Janki ji?
Yeah, wait, I've not come to your question, Milind. I'm coming there.
Cannot connect it to this verse. I don't know. I will have to think about it.
What is so complicated? He who sees it, right? So what is he seeing? Anything that he is seeing. We are not talking, you have gone to Prakriti and self. We are not even reached there yet. We have got the more easy part, which is he who sees it, sees it. That means anyone who sees it, who has a vision, who knows what he's trying to achieve, who knows what is happening. He has the vision, he sees it. If you see it, then all these other things will come. How will they come? You're not performing mechanical action.
You're not performing random action.
Right. Random.
You're performing goal-oriented action, and you can see the importance of the goal. That's what it means.
Yes. You have the vision on that thing. You have a complete vision on that thing.
Okay.
How this action leads there. Why should that be done in the first place? You have the full vision.
I understand that. Thank you.
All right. So let's come back to Milind. So Therefore, I asked, the only question I asked was, Milind, this was the question I asked, is the Lord said this in chapter 12. Where in chapter 12 did he say it? I mean, you
Yeah,
need not have
Yajna worship,
sorry,
Yajna worship portion.
Yajna worship? What are you talking about? Chapter 12 you're talking about?
Yes.
Where he says this, what I've just said. What, you're all
But
forgot?
isn't having an ideal speaking of the same idea?
Yeah. I'm talking about the idea which says mechanical action is no good. Remember, he gives the stages, very clear stages. Knowledge is better than action. Remember, we did knowledge is better than action. That means if you understand and do, it's better than mechanical, ritualistic actions. Do you remember or not? No, I'm not going into that portion. If you remember, good. If you don't, then forget about it. Okay. Momita. Bharat, you had raised your hand only to answer this
Yeah.
question.
Yes.
But success is still Ishwar Ichha. Yes, success is Ishwar Ichha in the sense that all the elements have to come together. When you're cooking a dish, how that dish comes out will be Ishwar Ichha. But if you are not putting all the elements in the first place, what Ishwar Ichha will work? Right? So you, as the doer of the action, have to know what all elements are there and make sure that they're all there.
Yes, so that
Then
is
there
about
is a hope. Huh?
so that is about the probability increase being maxed.
That's all you can do, right?
Yes.
But even if probability is maxed, success you get by simply keeping at it. So suppose you're trying to do something, you're trying to do your CA exam, okay, and you do all you can and you fail. Now you can't say this is Ishwar Ichha. Yes, in that sense it is, but it doesn't mean now you can't try again. You can go on and on and on until that target, whatever you have, is reached. See, when they were trying to get us independence, how many years, 100 years and 3 generations went by before we got it? But we got it, right? When Ishwar Ichha, that means the composite Ichha became strong enough, we got it.
Yes, but the individual, for example, Bhagat Singh failing to get independence was still successful in the sense the outcome didn't happen during his time. But we can still call his action successful.
No, I mean, I don't know if you'll call it successful. He was definitely a failure. The reason you think it should be success is because we respect him so much. So that is really a good example of how success and failure don't matter if you have done your best. Because all the people who fail are not all the people we respect, and all the people who succeed are not the people we respect. So failure and success is not really so important. Remember the line that you all chose. It is not the mountain you conquer, but yourself. But without the mountain, how are you going to conquer yourself? So you set yourself a goal, a clear goal. Then you need very strong discipline to do everything you need to do to reach that goal. And to do this multiple times if you fail multiple times.
So this is about the discipline then. Ya pashyati sa pashyati, because if
The ya pashyati sa pashyati is about the vision.
But if I have that vision steadily in mind, then I will be disciplined. That
Yes,
is
you will be many things. You will be objective, you will be disciplined, you'll be consistent, many things will arise out of it, which is why you will be successful.
right.
I mean, in spite of any amount of failures, life will go on, right? You can't win the first time you try. So you try multiple times, you try different things, but you're clear what it is that you want to happen. Like now we have a clear goal. We have to set up Vedanta University. It's a clear goal. We will gauge ourselves based in the end on whether we did it or we didn't do it. Now to do that, we'll have to do 1 million things, many of which we'll fail at, many of which we'll succeed at. Now we are currently failing in this whole marketing exercise that we have tried to undertake in the hope of doing something different. So we are failing at it. But that doesn't mean our goal is affected. If we fail at this, we try something else.
So that increases our chances of success.
Yes, it brings it to almost 100% probability because you are sure about one thing. You're not giving up until you get it. That thing is what gives you success.
Right. Thank you.
Manoj, Bhagavati, verse 12 of chapter 12. Verse 12 says, Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasat. Okay, so the first one is better than action is knowledge. Better than knowledge is, then he continues, practice, not practice, meditation. Now we're not going to that verse. Because we had discussed this in great depth, when we had discussed that verse, I was only reminding you. So let's not go there. We are on verse 30, chapter 13 now. And 12 has been wiped out. So never mind, it's been wiped out. So let us do 13 only at the moment. Because success means that no matter how many times we fail, we will keep at it. And we're going to keep at it. Okay. So yap pashyati sa pashyati. He who sees it, sees it. If you see the vision, if you see the goal, you may not be able to convince anybody else of the value of that goal. He who sees it, sees it. So many people say, why will you set up Vedanta University? Why don't you set up an orphanage? He who sees it, sees it. Now I cannot. If you don't see it, nobody can lend that vision. Or temporary lending you can do. But then after that, that person's own Maya will take over. So he who sees it, sees it. If you're seeing something that other people cannot see, do not waste your time trying to convince them. A more productive use of your time is
To do it yourself.
do it yourself. No, I'm not communicating. Rushal, you're new, Rushal. I've never seen this name before. I mean, not in class and not in life also. Your first time, Rushal?
Yes, ma'am. First time.
Oh, your name is Rushal and not Rushad.
Yes, Vishal.
Okay.
That doesn't mean anything. My mama randomly out of the blue named me.
Oh, is that so?
If you ask
No,
me English
I know what
meaning,
Rushad means. Rushad means happy soul. But I've never heard of Rushal. So some people say, Rushal, that if you have a very unusual name, you'll be very successful. So you've come to the right place if you wish to be very successful. So they say, I don't know if there's any evidence on that, but we have hopes with you, Rushal. Most unusual. Okay, so your question is which verse of chapter 12 says Ya Pashyati Sa Pashyati? I don't know, Rushal. That's not what we're talking of here. We're talking of the verse that says that better than knowledge, better than practice is knowledge, which is a startling statement he makes because almost anybody in the world will say it's better to do than to know, right? He himself says that. So he upturns this. He says better is to know than to do, which is clearly not correct. So if it's clearly not correct, he obviously means something else. So if you delve into it, you understand that he means doing with understanding is better than doing mechanically. So knowledge is better, that understanding is better than simple mechanical ritualistic action. But better than the knowledge is meditation. Meditation in the uses in the sense of consistent work towards whatever it is you have set for yourself. So what is the number of the verse? I do not know, but I'm sure somebody from the class can tell you.
Verse 12, chapter
Verse
12, verse 12.
Can you read out the verse?
Sure. Better indeed is knowledge than practice. Better than knowledge is meditation. Better than meditation is renunciation of the fruit of action. Peace immediately follows renunciation.
Great. That's the right verse. So what number is it? 12.
12.
Yeah. Okay, Rushal.
Jangiji, otherwise in chapter 5 he has mentioned ya pashyati sa pashyati.
Yeah, ya pashyati sa pashyati comes all over the place. That is his most common thing. He says it all the time.
Jangiji, one more thing. When you are working mechanically means intellect is not engaged, right? No?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
So most people, 9 out of 10 people, 9 out of 10 times do what they like, what they're conditioned to do. Even if they think, no, this is not right, this is wrong, even all of that, which we think is the intellect, is nothing but our own conditioning. Oh, how can I be rude to that person? But why can't you be rude to that person? You can be rude if rudeness is required at that moment. Oh, I have to give him. He has asked. Why do you have to give him? You don't have to anything in this world. You have to do what is sensible. That is your obligation in this world. That's your only obligation in this world. You have to do what is sensible. Because if you don't do what is sensible, you will harm yourself, you will harm the other person, and you will create chaos for other people to handle. So, he who sees it, sees it. It is one of the most fabulous statements because it is so true. It is so not understood. And it is so useful. Just don't spend time convincing other people. Spend more time trying to see the truth. There's no point trying to tell a person who can't see it. You will find in your own family that you are trying to tell them something, they don't get it at all. And we spend time, effort, energy, and mental resources on trying to convince people who are not going to be convinced. And they cannot be convinced. It is not possible to convince them. Just like it is not possible for them to convince us. Are they able to convince you of what they are saying? Then why are you thinking you will convince them? For both parties, he who sees it, sees it. Both parties, it is true. Can a teenager convince a small child that it is better for me to go with my girlfriend than to play gulli danda with you? Can any teenager convince any small child that the elder brother is telling the younger brother that, look, I have to go with my girlfriend, I cannot play Ludo with you? The small child will think, kitna pagal aadmi hai. He wants to go with a girl instead of playing gulli danda with me. He has no brains. Can both sides convince each other of anything? It's not possible. So leave it. Manoj, How do we be careful if it's intellect guided action? Can we say it's aligned to your goal set, it's intellect guided? Yes, it has to be aligned to the goal, otherwise, it's not intellect guided. You're right. Intellect guided means you're clear about what you're doing and why you're doing it. You know these two things. What is it you're trying to achieve? Momita. I could not express anger at the vendor. Ah, okay. I told Momita, go shout at the vendor. But then she found that she was incapable of shouting, poor thing. She's so soft that telling her to go express anger and all didn't quite work. So she used her own intellect and did what went with her prakriti, which is a great thing because you have to do what your personality allows, right? Poor Momita, if she starts shouting at people, they will think she's just chanting a Gita verse at them or something. So they won't get that she's shouting at them. So I could not express. So she's written, I could not express anger at the vendor. Very good. Audio recording. So I call her. So she is doing, she's working on trying to get how do you know what you know to become an audio book. So that fellow we recorded. We went there, we sat down, read the whole book, whole thing. That fellow is not giving us the recording. Can you believe it? It happens only in India, I think. So I called and spoke to the other person. Very good. In the studio. See? She found a way to get it done. That is when you're clear about what you want to do. You just find a way to get it done. This guy was not giving it. So she talked to somebody else in the studio who gave it to her. Quite simple, right? So most of our problems seem to be quite simple once you apply your intellect to them. And the file got delivered. Oh, yay! So soon we are going to have the audio. Yay! Congratulations, Momita. Bharat. Bharat is offered next time you want somebody shouted at, he is willing to shout for you. Okay, chalo, one thing and our thing has moved forward at least. Great. So, he who sees it, sees it. There is no point the teenager convincing the child, and there is no point the child convincing the teenager. Now, all of us think we are the teenager convincing the child. We all are convinced that we are always on the higher pedestal somehow. Maybe not. I don't know who is the person you're dealing with, but the fact remains that trying to convince is a waste of time. It is much better that we achieve the aims that we think are worthy of doing. Like on WhatsApp groups, something happens in some building, and everybody on that WhatsApp group will say, ye karna chahiye, wo karna chahiye. They'll have a big argument, ki ye karne, wo kare. Not one person says, मैं ये करूंगा. ये इनको ये करना चाहिए, उनको वो करना चाहिए. करो, जाओ, करो ना. You think you know a better way? Please go do it. So he who sees it, sees it. Yeah, Bharat. Bharat, at the moment, we don't need anyone yelled at, but we will definitely come
I
back to
hope
you.
so, but I'm available anyways.
Okay. Okay, Jayashree, please note, okay? You will also need his services at some point. Yeah, go
the
ahead.
question was that if you are open to course correction, at least you are able to see where the opposite person is coming from. So that much higher chance for you to at least be open, right? I mean,
Yes,
it can't be that you're a closed book.
absolutely. Stubbornness, rigidity, fanatism, all signs of tamas. Correct. You have to be open. That's the very important thing. And as Stephen Covey used to say, he was a very big management guru at one point. Now we don't hear his name, but many, many years ago, he was a big name. And he used to say, seek to understand before you seek to be understood. So even if you're trying to convince somebody, you must first actually stand in his shoes and see the world in his way. And then there is some hope that you may be able to convince him or her. So seek to understand before you seek to be understood. So Very, very important line. And that's why throughout the Gita, he mentions it multiple times. He who sees it, sees it. And if you see something, it becomes your obligation to do it. If you don't see it, it is never your obligation to do it. It's that simple. If you see the necessity of self-realization, it becomes your obligation to do it. If you don't see that necessity, that is not your obligation. If you see the necessity for anything, Ajay Kasotia, your fingers are constantly coming on the screen. I don't know what you're doing. Okay. So as long as we are able to associate with the higher, we become obligated. As long as we are able to conceive the higher, we become obligated to do something. For those who are fortunate enough to not have any association with the higher, never think of the higher, they are saved of this thing. So we people have unfortunately thought this thought. Now it becomes our obligation. Right. Okay, so ya pashyati, sa pashyati is all we have covered so far. Now we go to the second aspect of it, who says, he who sees all action is performed by Prakriti alone, and the self is action. So what is the thing that we have to eventually see? Different people have different vision. Even when they have a vision, they have different vision. Some people will be able to go up to X level, some will go to X plus 5 level, some will go to X plus 10 level. But how many people have the vision to understand that we have to understand the very nature of reality itself? That question very few people have. We take for granted something. We take, okay, there are many poor people suffering. We take this much for granted and then we build a reasoning on it. Philosophical thought is you did not take anything for granted and you started with the original question. What is the base on which all discussion will be? What is the very nature of reality? You start with, oh, I have a marital problem. What do I do? You start from there and then you go. You don't say, start from, is it true that I am married? What part is true? He was so rude to me. You start from Nanigo. What part is true? So when you come to Vedanta, you start examining the very nature, the fundamental nature of reality. Then what they tell us, what the Lord tells us is that there is Prakriti and there is Purusha. There is matter and there is spirit. What is the nature of these two things that are there? God is what? Is he in a temple or church or mosque? Is he the person who will grant me my desires? Is he the person who will protect me from all the evil and negativity that takes place? What is the role of God? Who is God? What is his role? So what we are told is that the Lord, the truth, is the inactive principle behind all the action. The Lord does nothing. You cannot ask for his help in achieving your goal. You cannot ask for his help in preserving what you have. Then what is he doing? Why is he there at all? Nothing you can get out of him. Nothing. And what is he there for? What is he there for? You cannot answer. He is there. What does he do? He is that inactive principle because of which every action takes place. Nobody can act or refrain from action without the self enlivening. It works like consciousness does, and therefore it is referred to as pure consciousness. So how does your consciousness work? When you are conscious, only then can you do anything. But your consciousness doesn't do anything. But if you are not conscious, nothing could happen. You could neither praise somebody nor abuse them. You could neither help somebody nor steal from them. You couldn't do anything until you are conscious. So that consciousness is the very base of it all. It doesn't do anything. And yet you cannot do anything without it. The purest form of consciousness is the ultimate reality. Without it, nothing can be done. But it does nothing. Like petrol in a car. The petrol does not speed. The petrol does not run. But without the petrol, no car can speed, no car can run. So he's saying, he who sees the self, the ultimate reality, as being actionless, it does nothing. Then how is all this action happening? So much is happening. How is it happening? Prakriti does it all. All action comes from Prakriti or matter or vasanas, whichever word you would like to use. Now, if you understand this, various ramifications come through. The first and most important ramification of this is that if you admit that consciousness does nothing, but without consciousness, nothing can happen. If you admit to this much, then the next step will always be that your consciousness and my consciousness is exactly the same. There's no difference, right? There may be different things we do with our consciousness, but the fact that we are conscious is all the same. Now, if you understand that, then you understand that consciousness is the most inherent nature of mine, and consciousness is the most inherent nature of yours, the natural outgrowth of this will be
Objectivity.
Identification.
identification. Very good. Same consciousness which makes you talk nonsense is the same consciousness which makes me hear nonsense. Same consciousness. So somehow that converts in the mind as universal affection, because you begin to see the oneness in it. Just like in your family, you see the oneness, and no matter how foolishly people behave, they're still your family. You still care for them. You're still worried and concerned about them. So similarly, once you're able to understand this inactive consciousness in you and therefore in others, you begin to feel a sense of universal identification, known also as universal love. Yes, Deepraj?
The reason we say the consciousness is the same in all humans is because is it because there is no like all distinctions are in Prakriti, so by definition it cannot be in pure consciousness?
Yes, but we didn't say in all humans. That was your addition.
Oh yeah, in all beings. Thank you.
There's no division, no demarcation in consciousness, right? There's no differences in consciousness. The differences lie elsewhere. So wherever there lies a difference between you and me, that is not the truth. And once that begins to sink in, the nature of that individual changes. They no longer have hatred towards anyone, and no longer do they have preferential affection towards anyone. It's an amazing thing. So when we are able to divide the Prakriti from the Purusha, it is just like in your own family, right? Don't you do that? You divide out the actions from the fact that the person is your family member. He is my brother supersedes that he is behaving so stupidly. He is my son supersedes the fact that he's really a brainless fellow. So when you have identification, you have what is known in psychology as a very positive override. So you make excuses, like you make excuses for your own action, right? So if you get late, you say, oh, I never meant to get late, but the traffic was so bad, or this thing happened and that thing. You make excuses for yourself. But if somebody else gets late, they say, how dare you be late? Why didn't you organize yourself better? So when there is otherness, then we have a negative override. And when there is oneness, we have a positive override. For example, you hear a lady talk about her son. वैसे तो वो कभी चिढ़ता नहीं है, पर ये आदमी ने तो इतना ज्यादा उसको बोला कि उसने उसको ठूसा दे दिया. No, she in her mind, her son is a saint. He will never do anything wrong. But now that you can prove, like he hit somebody, then उसने ऐसे बोला ना, तो कोई भी ऐसे करता ना. Because of the positive override, everything that the people you do, everything people you love do becomes good. And everything that anybody you don't love does becomes bad. So once we're able to get down to the very basics of it, the very personality change, you see things for what they are. And in spite of seeing things for what they are, you still
Love them.
love them. You see it exactly what it is. So he who sees it, sees it. And what is the it that it's telling us to see? The very nature of reality, the very nature of truth. That consciousness is an inactive principle. All action is coming from Prakriti. It sounds like, okay, I got it. Self is inactive, Prakriti is active. It just sounds like something you say. You have to sit with it and think about it and understand the ramifications of this. That's what the reflection is all about. Otherwise, it's all very easy to say, Prakriti is active and self is inactive. Acha, chalo, next verse. We know this. We know this. If we knew this, I don't know what kind of group we would have created over here. We can understand the basic nature of reality itself. And if you understand that all action is by Prakriti, then by definition, all change is Prakriti. And therefore, by definition, Prakriti will change. What are you expecting? You remember, you don't remember, but at one time you were an infant in arms, very small, very cute. Perfect skin, perfect fingers, very imperfect. And maybe a nice ball plate. And nice and chubby. You were like that many years ago. Then you had hair that grew, and then you were very proud of it or not proud of it, whatever happened. You had to go to the salon, fix it, improve it, whatever it is you were doing. The body grew and grew, sometimes grew a bit too much, but it grew. And then slowly, that perfect skin started losing its perfection. Slowly, the changes are coming. Eventually, at the very end, what will happen? That bald plate all over again. The toothless smile all over again. Change is to be expected. change is to be anticipated because you're dealing with Prakriti. And you will never be able to deal with that change. You will always be affected by that change as long as,
Focused on Prakriti.
very good, as long as you're focused on Prakriti. Because Prakriti is change, because Prakriti's very definition is action. If you focus on it, you will go up and down. What else will happen? This finger. If I focus on this finger, you all are out of focus. If I look at you, this finger is out of focus. Then you have to decide for yourself what should be the focus of your life. Nobody can decide this for you. Either you see it or you don't see it. Now, if you take this one step further, then what is the definition of reality? You know, the definition of reality, almost everybody agrees with this definition. Reality is that which is the same in the past, present, and future. Reality is defined as that which is the same in the past, present, and future. Do you know anything which is the same in the past, present, and future? Then do you know reality at all? Everything we know changes. And if it changes, it can't be real. And we are so carried away with that we forget that there is something real. There is the changeless. We have no time for that. All the time in the world for everything else. How many people, I mean, nothing to do with coming to class, but the irony of this never occurs to anyone. They always tell me, always. Even today, somebody told me, मुझे आपके क्लासेस में आना है, मैंने ये सुना वो सुना, मुझे आना ही है, पर क्या करे अब मेरे whatever his problems in life, he started telling me. So many problems in life. You don't have 1 hour, half an hour, 15 minutes to give to reality. Okay, chalo, you can't do anything. Listen to the YouTube channel for half an hour, for 15 minutes. Listen to the class 15 minutes at a time. The thing is, if you want to, you'll do it. And if you don't want to, you won't. You'll always have a reason why you can't do it. So he who sees all action as performed by Prakriti, that means everything that you know is Prakriti, is the unreal. Why am I excited about it and why am I dejected about it? I'm completely capable of being completely happy with no reference to Prakriti whatsoever. Prakriti will play its games and I will play the game back. But my happiness is not dependent. See, whatever Prakriti does, you have to keep on doing, right? You have to keep adapting, like how Momita. She couldn't get those audio tapes out of the guy. So she followed up and followed up and followed up. Then she figured this guy I can't do anything with. She went to another guy. I mean, in the same organization, that guy gave it to her. So constantly adapting to whatever is this change that is being thrown at us. But that's the game, right? Life would not be fun if we could not have to think creatively about, okay, this is the problem. Now, what do we do with it? We have a problem with our marketing agency. Now, what do we do about it? Then we've got something to discuss. If everybody was so sweet and so nice to us, what would we ever discuss also? Yeah, Bharat.
So, on the point of having a vision, we said earlier that those who don't have it are saved. I mean, how are they saved? We still get the repercussions of ignorance, right?
Yes. They get that, but they don't get the troubles of having to pursue the vision.
They get bigger troubles then later on.
Yes, that is true.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Momita.
So, Janki ji, when I feel that, okay, this makes sense, I'm not a body mind, clearly. But I don't know what is reality. So then that leaves you in a state of weirdness, like where you feel like Trishanku, like it's not comfortable. So I just shared this on the chat. This is apparently the conclusion of a scientist who discovered some concept. And he was shocked to see that he was not the unity he thought he was. So it's actually very uncomforting. It's not comforting.
And that's natural, right? The way nature makes us do anything is by becoming uncomfortable. The only reason most people take action is because they become uncomfortable. So the way nature makes you do anything that nature makes you do is by making you uncomfortable. So that discomfort is the push to make you find out then what is real. How can I go so against everything? I mean, what is real? So that's how you use that feeling of weirdness. That okay, I'm going to find out. I'm not accepting anything. I'm just going to find out. I'm investigating this. And there's a methodology of investigating, so I'm using that methodology.
Yeah. No, I mean, we do that, but then it is like you become a bit nostalgic for the days of ignorance.
Yes, that's what I told you. But Bharat said, no, but those were even worse. You decide which one is worse.
Yeah, it does feel worse at times and better.
Yes, but the only advantage of getting worse is that there is a hope at the end of this tunnel. There was no hope at the end of that tunnel.
Thank you.
Okay, so